Hi, it's Louise from Tap Into Wellbeing, and today I'm just going to do a short video on how to use EFT tapping when you're feeling stressed and overwhelmed. So the first thing that you would want to do is just tune into what is it that you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed about. So just spend a moment and just take a breath and tune in and see what are the things that are helping you to feel stressed or overwhelmed or making you feel unhappy and not at ease. So what I like to do is just tune into it, feel it, and then what we like to do is give it a number from 0 to 10. 0 is no stress, no overwhelm, none at all is 0, and 10 out of 10 is the maximum amount of stress that you could be feeling. So somewhere on that scale, pick the number that you're feeling now and just make a note of that. And also just tune into your body and see if that feeling of stress is anywhere in your body. Sometimes it feels like a tight clenching in the throat. It could be a throbbing headache. It could be a pain across the back of your shoulders, a bit of an uneasy tummy. It could be just a lower back ache. Just observe your body right now and see if you can notice where that stress might be sitting in your body. And what we can do with the tapping is we can address the stress that you're feeling, why you're feeling that, and any sensations or constrictions or feelings within the body that might be contributing to or as a result of that feeling of stress and overwhelm. And so the very first thing we do, as I said, is just take a note of that number. And I'm just going to guess at the moment that, say it's 5 out of 10. And for me, I'm just feeling a bit of constriction in my chest. So what I'm going to do is give you an example of how I would tap for feeling stressed and overwhelmed. And for me right now, probably the feeling of overwhelmed is where I'm feeling a bit of discomfort and dis-ease. And so I'm tuning into that. And like I said, it's a slight tightness in my upper chest. And I'm going to give that a 5 out of 10. So the very next thing you do is you come up with what we call a setup statement. And you say that setup statement, which is really just tuning into the overwhelm, tuning into whatever's going on for you right now, and what that overwhelm might be about. And we just give a brief description, and we use that as our setup statement. And we say that setup statement as we're tapping on the side of our hand. And we say it out 3 times. And at the end of our acknowledgement, we're basically acknowledging what's going on for us, how we're feeling, and where we're feeling it in the body. And then at the end of that statement, we have what we call an acceptance statement. And that is basically you're accepting that this is how you feel. And we do that 3 times. And so that would look a little bit like this. So if you'd want to tap along with me and get some borrowed benefits, think of whatever your issue is, and you can just put that aside and tap along with me, and you'll still get some benefits from doing the tapping. So for me, it would be, even though I'm feeling overwhelmed at the moment with all that's going on in the world, with what's happening here in Sydney and going back into lockdown. And right here, right now, I accept myself and how I feel. Even though I'm feeling overwhelmed, so much going on in the world, going backwards and forwards into and out of lockdowns. And I can feel this as a slight constriction across the top of my chest. And I accept myself and how I feel. Even though I've got all this overwhelm, when I think about the current state of affairs, being put back into lockdown again, and I've got this constriction across the top of my chest, I accept myself and how I feel. And then what we're going to do is we're going to tap on the rest of the points, just using a reminder phrase, just to keep us tuned in and remind us what we're actually tapping on. So the first point is at the beginning of the eyebrow, Just tap with one finger or two fingers. All this overwhelm. Then we come around to the side of the eye. All this overwhelm. Directly under the eye. Or my overwhelm. Under the nose. This tight constriction in the top of my chest. This constriction in the top of my chest. The next point is just the bottom of your collarbones, just come down and then out slightly, and there's points there. You can tap either side, you can tap both. All this overwhelm. The next point is just under your arm. If you put your hand right there, and it's just where your hand would finish. All my overwhelm. And the last point is on the top of the head, directly in the center of the top of the head. If you just tap with a flat hand, you'll get the point. All this overwhelm, I can feel it as a tight constriction in my upper chest. And you just take a breath. And at this point, you just tune back in and you feel, how's that feeling for you now? And sometimes when you give voice or words to what you're feeling, your intensity could go up because you've tuned into what you're feeling, overwhelmed or stressed or worried about. And that sometimes does happen. But for me, it's gone down slightly. And so I would continue to do the tapping on my overwhelm. So that's a simple example of how you would do one round of tapping. And how you would continue is keep tapping on that overwhelm until it's a 0 to a 2, preferably a 1 or a 0. And also just noting anything that comes up for you while you're tapping. So I'm just going to do one more round, tap along with me and get some borrow benefits. So just repeating after me, even though I'm feeling overwhelmed. There's so much going on. And I can feel this as a slight constriction in my chest. I accept myself and how I'm feeling, even though I'm feeling overwhelmed. So much going on in the world, so much uncertainty. Right here, right now, I accept myself and how I feel, even though I'm feeling so overwhelmed and I've got this tight constriction in my chest. I accept myself and how I'm feeling. All this overwhelm. Feeling so overwhelmed. This overwhelmed feeling in my body. So overwhelmed. All of my overwhelm. Things just feel so overwhelming at the moment. This tight feeling in my upper chest. Feeling overwhelmed. I have a breath. Don't forget to release that breath and breathe it right out. And then just tune back into whatever you were thinking of before you began tapping along with me and see if your number has dropped wherever you started. And the idea of the tapping is to keep tapping on those rounds until that feeling of overwhelm or distress or stress, or if it's more prominent in the body, until that actually reduces right down to a 0 or a 1. So if you're still feeling overwhelmed, pause the video and keep tapping. Just keep tapping 3 times with a setup statement. At the end of that statement, any kind of acceptance you can add to that. You can say, I love and accept myself. You could say, it just is the way it is, or I accept this is how I feel. And then tapping on the points just as a reminder phrase, whether it's the overwhelm or the sensation in the body. And just keep doing that tapping and you will notice that that number will come down and there'll be more feeling of calm as you do those rounds of tapping. and just completing a round of tapping and then checking back in on your level of overwhelm and seeing if there's been any shifts or any easing up. I certainly am feeling better here. It's not feeling as constricted or as tight. So let me know how you went with that tapping, and enjoy tapping to reduce your feelings of overwhelm. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Leave me a like or a comment. I hope to see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.